You're listening to a download from the outdoorstation.co.uk. Number 601.
Hello and welcome back to our penultimate day on the Wainwright Coast to Coast. Yes, somehow in this series we've almost made it across the UK during May 2025. If you've been listening to the previous episodes, you'll know this adventure has been, slightly harder than we naively imagined on several levels. In hindsight, trying to power through the route in just 12 days while locking ourselves into fixed accommodation dates, well, it's been a masterclass in creating a rod for our own backs. Add in carrying far too much weight, plus our overconfident, we'll sort accommodation and supplies as we go philosophy. Let's just say we've learned some lessons, painfully. A perfect example of our, shall we say, creative planning comes in today's episode, where you'll hear me confidently refer to our destination as Inch Take Farm. Sounds lovely, doesn't it? Unfortunately, the actual name is Intake Farm, and while I'd been happily emailing what I thought was their website, intakefarm.co.uk, an upmarket eco-based wild camping destination, they turned out to be in Ipstones, Stoke-on-Trent, not exactly on today's route. It was only when we arrived at the real Intake Farm, that is intakefarm.com, greeted by a sea of confused faces and zero recollection of any emails, that the penny dropped. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I had booked the wrong campsite in the wrong county. What a plonker, you stupid boy, Pike. So, please enjoy today's episode and enjoy the mistakes that echo cheerfully throughout it. If nothing else, may my incompetence save you from making the same one. Well, good morning to day 12, I think. Tomorrow we finish, and that must be day 13. We keep having to do this on our fingers and thumbs because we're so tired we've lost track of what's what. So hopefully I'm right, it's day 12. And, well, in two ways. Good night's sleep. It was very mild, very warm. No disturbances of any kind apart from sheep wandering around the field, getting some grass from nearby the tent and occasionally hearing them. Nothing in the way of traffic. And, here's the early morning train going past. And no disturbances from the pub, although we could hear them chattering away. We're soon fast asleep, we're obviously tired. So, from that point of view, a fine night. It was just a bit too warm, unfortunately. We've made lots of mistakes, and particularly the sleeping systems, we mentioned that before. But maybe I'll make a separate audio on a gear and advice. I'm also looking forward to talking to Lee, actually, about his crossing, because he would have been much more ruthless than we've been, and comparing the pros and cons of what he took, the route that he took, the distances that he crossed, and obviously ultimately the weight he was carrying. So today we're heading for Inch Farm, I think it's called, and it's only, 6 or 7 miles, I think, according to the map. And we've arranged to meet Simon and Ruth there, so they're currently at the Lion Inn, or they were last night. Knowing them, they'll probably start really early, so I wouldn't be at all surprised by the time we get packed up today, because we're not in any rush. We might actually hear them come past. And yeah, looking forward to Inch Farm. It looks like a bit more of a sort of a very laid-back, hippie, eco sort of wild camping, semi-wild camping site. Eco toilets and showers and things. It'll be interesting to see how they've laid it out, just out of curiosity really. But it looks quite good fun, and if you're a hammock user, they've got places for hammock users and that sort of stuff. And then all together we'll wander into Robin Hood Bay tomorrow and celebrate accordingly. Go for a paddle or whatever you do. The forecast is pretty good today, and I believe it's pretty good tomorrow as well. So that's what we're looking forward to. It's it's just gone 8 o'clock, and as you heard, I've just got the tea on. Ro's gone to use the facilities, and we'll have a nice cup of tea this morning and try and dry the tent out from the condensation because it's fairly soggy. And once we're ready, pack up and wander off. So I'll fill you in with progress a bit later on. Nine o'clock, and we left the camping at the Arncliffe Arms. And the first part of the walk takes you through, Rose described it beautifully, a sound bath. And the path goes up and through a beautiful green wood. You can hear the bird song around me as I record this. But in the centre of the path are old stones, which have obviously been here a long, long time, because they've been worn smooth into a little dip where people have passed over the years and worn the stone down. So these aren't flagstones that have been repurposed or recycled from somewhere else. These are literally old stones which have been worn down by thousands of feet over the years, which makes you think this is quite an old wood, and certainly an old route, maybe a drover's route or whatever, because the populations of some of these villages accelerated over the years, went from very few to quite a few hundred, even thousands, when there was a mineral rush, and suddenly certain minerals were more popular than others that you could only get from these remote areas in Yorkshire. But this path is truly tranquil, and certainly if you came from the big city and wanted some escape, just half an hour's walk through here would give you a completely different rural romantic feeling. Although we're surrounded by ferns, I can see beech trees, holly trees, brambles and nettles, Greater Stitchworth, Herb Robert, buttercups, a mixture of grasses, and of course the inevitable bird song, which is just gorgeous as we leave the river further behind us. I expect these stones really have many stories they could tell about the people that pass this way. We're not too sure what time we arrived here, but we're in Grosmont now. It's now 11:40, and we have just had some tea and cake and buns at the Barking Terrier Bakery, which is the old school. As you come into Grosmont, you cross over the railway line and immediately turn right, and you walk up a bank, and there is the old school building, which is a lovely location for watching the trains go by, which is obviously a popular tourist attraction here, and enjoying a break. And they do a great range of breakfasts right through to lunches. But they're only open Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Mondays, 10 till 3. So if you're obviously coming through any other day than that, you're going to miss out. There is another little cafe just as you start coming into Grosmont, which Tea Room, which was strangely closed on a Friday, which seems very odd. And then there's a little corner shop just by the railway crossing, which has got basics in there.
Well, lots of stuff in there, actually.
Yeah, but I mean, basically, this is the last shop. We think it's the last shop until the coast to get supplies. So we're going to pick up some apples and a few bars or whatever. We've got some food for tonight, and it'll keep us going tomorrow, which is a short 6 mile, I think, from Intake Farm to Robin Hood's Bay. So as you can probably hear from the background noise, it is a lovely calm day. Sun is out. The sky isn't as deep blue as it has been, but it's certainly very pleasant with a few clouds in the sky. I can see there's a good handful of coaster-coasters here as well that are doing the Sherpa version, or the baggage transfer version, and we will join them in this famous hill that we now got to climb coming out of Grosmont, which is about 1 kilometre long, and it seems vertical, but only vertical after a lot of cake and tea. Wouldn't you agree?
Definitely a lot of cake and tea, but very nice tea. They bake everything themselves here, which is really nice. She was saying that they do the shopping and things on the Wednesday, Thursday when they're closed, and then do all the baking and have them ready for Friday. So and it's beautifully laid out. There's some really nice plantings, a really nice garden.
And there's a lot of character inside with old cinema seats and
all sorts
of things.
There's a little wood burner in there, so obviously through the winter it must be really cosy.
Yeah.
Dogs are very welcome. There's a lot of dogs here.
And the owner's got a very dry Yorkshire sense of humour, which is appreciated on a good day. Right, let's go and get a few bits and then tackle this hill. It's now 12:30 and I'm just by the cattle grid, as you heard, after that long hard climb out of Grosmont up the road, which is a good 2 kilometres, really steep road climb. We were warned about this by a local a few days back. We've just got this one hill to climb, and well, you get used to it after a while, don't you? But if you're not ready for it, it's an absolute bastard. And at one stage it's even marked as being 1 in 3. Having said all that, I can see the sea quite clearly. I presume that's Robin Hood's Bay. Buildings I can see in the distance there. It's still fairly pleasant. The sun's gone in, which is quite nice actually. It allows the cool breeze to cool us down a bit. Interesting, the stone wall technique has definitely changed once again. These are much more thrown together stone walls. There's not as much artistry, I'd say, involved in building these walls. But it's a quirky little village down there, and certainly the lady running the sort of goodie shop, sweet shop, gift shop, whatever, and the guys running that particular cafe had a good sense of humour. It was quite good fun. But certainly you need that before you tackle this hill, which everybody has to do, with or without packs. As I say, we're almost on the common at the moment by the cattle grid, so it shouldn't be very long before it levels out. And then we take the path to Intake Farm. "2:45 now, and about 2 o'clock we got to Intake Farm, which is, as you would expect it, a farm. In progress, people working on farm, as well as a very nice welcome from Judith, who gave us a lovely big proper Yorkshire pot of tea and a couple of monstrous mugs and some homemade cake, which set us up nicely. I was expecting the campsite or the camping area to be, some distance away from the house, but in fact it's their front lawn next to the house, which provides a wonderful sheltered flat spot area. We're just tucked down behind a stone wall and part of the garden. We're only 20-30 yards from the house and the toilet and the shower, and we have the most magnificent view across the valley. So all in all, not a bad spot for the last camp of the trip. So we're just going through the usual camp preparations now, putting the tent up, getting all the stuff sorted, sorting out all the dirty things and seeing if we can do a quick wash, because everything will dry very quickly in this weather. It's gusty and it's a bit sunny and there's plenty of warmth. Anybody coming this way, once you cross the main road and start going down the common tracks, I'd say, probably the best way to describe it, there are possibly a couple of tracks that you could take that don't involve going right down to the stream and then climbing all the way back up again to Intake Farm. It's not as bad a hill as Grosmont. It's not as long, but it's certainly quite punishing if you've got sore feet and blisters and things. So if you're good at your map reading, you may spot there is an optional shortcut, but I'm not too sure how clear it is, because we were looking for it, and then the first stile that we needed to cross to go on the shortcut that we were going to take was completely overgrown. And although we could see the stile, we thought, well, if it's overgrown this end of the path, what's it like at the other end? And as we were tired and had all the time in the world, we decided just to carry on down to the road, down to some lovely cottages down by the bridge and the ford, but past the little church, the little chapel, and then you come up the climb to the farm. But as I say, a lovely warm welcome, perfect way to end the trip really. We've had some great hospitality from people. Other people, it's been a little bit, I think you need to work a bit harder, guys, if you want to make the most of this. Apparently 6,000 people a year apparently do the coast to coast, and I'll be speaking to a few ladies hopefully later on tonight about their experience of using the baggage service and doing the walk, and they too have had mixed experiences regarding the hospitality they've received. So I will be back once we're settled, sorted, cleaned, washed and smelling lovely, and Simon and Ruth are here. I know they're on the way, they're booked in for tonight, so looking forward to catching up with them and hearing their stories from the last few days.
As you'll hear, Simon was far more organised than we ever managed to be on this whole trip. So for anyone planning their own coast-to-coast adventure, I thought it would be genuinely helpful to share his accommodation breakdown, along with his thoughts on the quality, value and quirks of the places he stayed. Future walkers, take note. This is the level of preparation we should all aspire to.
Catching up with Simon and Ruth again at Intake Farm, it's worthwhile just covering some of the campsites that Simon visited and accommodation, just so that we can add to the library of information that's on the podcast. So Simon's going to go through the places that he stayed over the last 10, 12 days, and with a brief review of what to expect if you are travelling that way and staying in those sites. Now, we both stayed at the Fox and Hounds the first night, which I think we've described earlier on, which was a very small grassy area just by the pub. It was okay, certainly clean, flat. Wouldn't have been really many more space for probably 4 or 5 very small tents. And the pub facilities obviously were open at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, I think, the following day. But there was nothing else there. So after that, after the Fox, Simon, where did you go? Where did you stay?
So, day 2 was Ennerdale to Rosswaite. I think it's also known as Borrowdale, that area. So I stayed at Chapel House Farm. I think on their website it does say you can just turn up, but only if space is available. So you was a bit apprehensive whether there is space available, but got there. It's a massive, massive field. So it's going to have to be pretty busy for there to be no space. There's a sign just saying, pitch up. If no one's in, pitch up. It'll grab the money later. Massive sort of field, fairly flat, a couple of slopey bits. The guy just comes around later and grabs £10 off you. Dead friendly guy. He likes to chat. Couple of toilets, a couple of showers. You don't have to pay any. Is it 20p for the showers? I think for a few minutes. But no sort of indoor facilities as such. But it was a nice sunny day, so it was certainly a nice campsite to stay at. Next day, I went over. I did kind of almost what some people would say was 2 days. I went all the way over to Patterdale. So, went over to Side Farm. That's pretty much on the trail. It's not well signposted off the trail, but it is literally like a farm track off the Coast to Coast trail before you start climbing. It's a farm. They've got a nice cafe there, indoor and outdoor seating. Lovely lady with homemade cakes. Camping, I think, was about £12-13 maybe. It's a bit of a trek from the cafe where you pay in the farmhouse to the field you camp in, and I did even double back at one point to double check, ask again where I was supposed to be camping. But when you get to this field, it's a big field, mostly sloping. There's like one corner which is flat, and you can get maybe 10 tents depending on the size. Otherwise you're going to have to be on a slope. There might have been some flat spots right at the far end, but then you've got to trudge to the toilet block. Toilet block was lovely. They've got washer and dryer facilities in there, indoors. Just one socket where you can charge, and every time I went someone was charging a power bank, so that was on charge for hours. Pot washing facilities. So there's a bit of covered space if you want to cook indoors, out the wind or the rain. But lovely views over the water there. And just a couple of minutes off the trail. There's a pub nearby, but I didn't go to. So you can get food there if you need to. But I just cooked at the campsite. So that was day 3. Day 4, Patterdale to Shap. Now Shap, I knew from maybe watching a few YouTube videos or reading a few blogs. There was a pub called the Crown Inn, and you can camp. They advertise you can camp in their beer garden. There is a campsite I think called Ing Farm or something similar, but when I checked online just a few days before, it said fully booked. So maybe it's a small place that gets booked up. But Crown Inn, I rang them up and said, "Can I camp in your beer garden?" They went, "Yeah, it's £10." I was aware they had some sort of like camping pod thing, and that's not one of these big wooden things. It really is like a rabbit hutch, but bigger than a tent, just. So I said, how much? And I knew it was going to rain, so I said, how much are your pods if they're available? She said, there's no one else staying at the moment, and the pods are the same price as camping. So for £10, I had like a proper roof over my head. I wouldn't actually recommend camping in their beer garden unless you need to, because it's overlooked by houses. It's only a few square metres, and it faces the car park as well.
I'm just trying to visualise those pods. How tall are they? And could you sit up in them? Are they that tall?
You could kneel up. There's a double and a single one. So I took the double because I was first there. You could certainly kneel up, more headroom than a tent. And the double one, I could spread right out, because you could easily fit 2 people in with all the gear and beds in that one. Plenty of room. You have to kind of shuffle, climb in and climb out. You don't walk into it. You kind of sort of get on your knees and get into it. And there's just one toilet there with a shower. When you turn the shower on, it soaks the toilet. It's like okay. Luckily, there's only one other person stayed. If there was a few people camping, then that bathroom could have got busy. The pub was really quiet, but lovely owner. The food was all right, so can't complain about the owners and the food in there. And the other lady who ended up staying next to me was a lady called Ruth, who we know well now. Bob knows. She had been a bit cold a few nights, so the lovely landlady not only lent her a hot water bottle for the evening, but then left a note in the morning saying, "Keep the hot water bottle." So that was for £10. She had a roof, and she was given a hot water bottle.
Free hot water bottle.
Yeah. So Ruth was very appreciative of that. The next day, so day 5, that was Shap to Kirkby Stephen. We stayed at the Pennine View. I think it's a caravan park, which does sound a bit off-putting. Now, I quite liked it. It was a big caravan park. Families camping there, lots of touring tents. But there's a separate hiking field where you just pitch up where you want. And it's got a really lovely camping type indoor facilities with cooker, kettle, table. all for free. You don't have to pay. There is a hob there you can use, but you have to put some money in the meter for the hob. But if you've got your gas stove, you can just sit in there and cook your own meal on your own gas stove. Loads of charging points in there as well, so you can charge. And you've got toilet facilities just for the campers by that area as well. And then there's a lovely little, well, not little, they call it the engine shed, a big like barn with loads of seating, a bar, and they do food at reasonable prices. I can't exactly remember what they were, but it certainly didn't feel like I was being ripped off. So I quite enjoyed that there. And the lady in reception, she was lovely. There is a separate like laundry area and an extra toilet block, and I didn't go into that, but you can do laundry there if you need to. So that's Kirkby Stephen. So Kirkby Stephen to Keld. Now Keld I've stayed at before because that's where the Pennine Way crosses coast to coast. You've got sort of field at the top, a couple of different levels further down in the farmyard. I stayed at the very bottom by the river to try and get out of the rain, which meant it's a bit of a trek up to the toilets, but there's quite a few toilets, a few showers, certainly enough for everybody who was there when I was there.
And that's where we met you again, wasn't it?
Yep, yeah, so we saw you again. So yeah, you get free Wi-Fi up by the toilet block. A little bit of a seating area outside the toilets where you can sit if you need to. But yeah, I can't complain. And there's a cafe as well, so yeah, you can get a few bits in there if you need to, a bit of food.
Yeah,
So,
I think we had breakfast and we had some sort of tea cake or whatever in the afternoon. It was a pleasant way to end the day and start the following day. But there is you are mixing with the family campers as well as the backpackers. There's no separate area, is there?
No, and the family next to me did apologise about the children and offered. She said, "Have you got cooking facilities?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I've got stoves." She goes, "Well, to apologise for the drinks, you come and knock on our door, make you a cup of tea." But yeah, the kids were quiet at night, so that's all right. So yeah, no, I slept well there. Yep. So the next day was Keld to Reef. Now, because the weather forecast was forecast bad, I'd booked the YHA for Reef. You can camp there as well, and that's sort of like out the back. I think you can just, by the looks of people, you could just pitch up anywhere. I booked a room to myself for it was £25 for the dorm, but I decided I didn't know how many people I'd be sharing with and whether I'd sleep well, so I paid an extra £35, making £60 to get a room for myself. So that was nice. Still shared bathroom. So yeah, it is a bit of a trudge up a hill from Reef. Nice views, good breakfast. The evening meal I wouldn't say is fantastic. I ordered a veggie sausage, mash and peas. Now it turned out it was instant Cadbury smash and they'd put too much water in, so that was quite watery. Veggie sausages weren't brilliant and mushy peas were just probably out of a tin. But yeah, breakfast was well worth it. That was as much as you can eat. Go up as many times as you want. Continental. Sneaked a banana out in the morning as you do. So for about £10 I think breakfast was. I was happy with that. So, day 8, I was Reef to Catterick. Now again, because the forecast was bad, I was going to pub camp at the Hilliard Arms outside of Richmond. You can't camp directly in the centre of Richmond. There is, I'm not sure if there is a place, but the Hilliard Arms just past you can camp because of the weather. Yeah, I booked a pub at Catterick. Farmer's Arms, I think it was. £75 for a double room, no breakfast. They don't actually do breakfast. You can eat in the pub, which I didn't. Nice big room, tea and coffee making facilities. Can't necessarily complain. Nothing around there though. Nothing to do. Nowhere to go. All you can see out, I could see out the window was the A1M. So and you could hear the A1M, but not loud enough to be a problem at night.
And this is where we parted company because you were walking with us at that stage, and we went on to the infamous Danby Whisk, and I can definitely say you missed out on that one, but we don't like to rub it in.
Yeah, no, I've not heard people. They haven't stopped talking about Danby Whisk. I'd certainly missed out there because I didn't stop. I did a bit of a longer day to Catterick. It meant Danby Whisk would have been too short a day for me, so I rang the pub at Ingleby Cross, the Bluebell Inn. Said, "Can I camp in your beer garden?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." When I got there, that's a massive field, really, really big, completely flat. Near a road, the road noise was constant, but didn't bother me at all in bed. Only one toilet, one shower, but again there's a little kettle in between free you can use for free, but only one other person camping, so that the toilet facilities weren't a problem. If it does get busy, if it was busy, that toilet could have been you'd have been queuing. It does say 50p for the shower, but it worked. I just tried the shower and it worked, and it was hot, so just as well, because I didn't have any 50 pences. So I'm not sure if you need them or not, if that's an old thing, and they don't bother with that anymore. I had a nice meal in the pub. I think it was pricey, can't remember the price, but they're all pricey around here. I think they try and cash in when they can. So day 11, so I stayed at the Lordstones, which, Bob, I know you stayed the night before. You was kind of a day ahead of me at that point. I think there was another option to camp further on, but when I looked at Lordstones, I could see that they did evening meals and they did breakfast. When I got there, actually, they were shutting at 3, so there was no food in the evening. I did get some chips before the shop for £3.50. That wasn't too bad. I had a pot of tea. There's a separate toilet block with a shower. Not amazing facilities. A little cleaning up area. Directly on the route, though, the coast to coast literally goes through the site.
Yeah. I think when I called and booked in for us, they told us that they closed at 4 o'clock. So it's interesting they closed at 3 for you.
Yeah, I think you could get your keys, because you need a key for the toilet block. I think you could get those until 4, but I think it was a private function in the restaurant.
Right, okay. Well, yeah, they left our keys in a plastic bag, sellotaped to the window, so we picked it up later on.
Bit of a wet night at Lordstones, and not a lot to do around there. Some nice views from the site if you ever wander around, but there's a covered area outdoors with Wi-Fi, so you can sit there for the evening and have Wi-Fi. They've got some camping pods where I did get to see, and they've got heaters. They've got ensuite in the camping pods. I don't know how much they were, but I went inside, eat a nice hamper with cakes and tea and biscuits, so they look nice. So day 11, that was Lordstones to the Lion Inn. Lion Inn is it's kind of in the middle of nowhere by itself, so you're a bit limited if you don't want to stay there. It's only £3 to camp. Apparently you camp round the back unless it's windy, and certainly when we walked in they said just wait until after 6:30 and camp in the beer garden, or you can pitch up straight away at the back. I think they like to wait for it to quieten down before people start pitching up in the beer garden. They offer everything you need, so evening meals, breakfast, packed lunch, all a bit pricey.
Yeah, they've got toilets and showers there as well, but again, I think it closes between, is it 10 and 8?
11 o'clock they shut the pub, so after 11 o'clock there's no toilet facilities. They open the door at 7 for breakfast at 8, so you can get in at 7 to charge your phones, use the bathroom. There's a free shower inside as well you can use whilst it's open.
When I was in there, I noticed, is it just the one shower?
Yes, one for men, one for women. Separate, but there was only a couple of other people camping, so you'd only fit a few in that beer garden, though. I don't know, around the back you can probably fit quite a few. But.
Yeah, I think the other field was quite large. Actually, it was some distance away.
So I had breakfast there. The breakfast was actually quite good value. Say the evening meals were a bit pricey. Breakfast was £10. Eat as much continental as you want, so cereal and yogurts. And then I had the full veggie breakfast, which was a decent portion. I can't complain there.
And that brings you to here.
Yep, so Saturday, we're at the Intake Farm in Littlebeck. I think I saw this one mentioned on a blog somewhere. So Judith, the owner's lovely. She greets you with a cup of tea and a cake. It's kind of a farmhouse with a garden, and we're camping on the garden, but it's fairly flat. Yeah, lovely. Can't complain. I've not paid yet. I can't remember how much it is. They're £10 to camp, I think.
I think actually it's a bit more than that. I think it's 13, 14, I think.
Okay, yep, fair enough. And I'm staying for an evening meal, which I think has a pudding as well. I think that's £20, and I've booked in for breakfast as well, so that's another £10. I don't know if she does packed lunch, but I'm planning on, it's 11 miles now to the end, so I'm planning on big breakfast and making it all the way there and grab some food in Robin Hood's Bay, hopefully.
Yes, I know. Simon really put us to shame with that report. Our approach was very much wing it and see what happens. And while that can work, it definitely adds a layer of stress that can take some of the joy out of this hike. Especially if the weather turns on you and all you're dreaming of is a hot meal and a warm shower out of the rain. Next up is our final day on the trail, with maybe a little reflection thrown in for good measure. Until then, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To hear or see more from our extensive free library, please visit theoutdoorstation.co.uk.